What could possibly bring the Bat and the Demon to fight together? Only family, love, and vengeance. It's the middle of the night in Gotham, and the GCPD are dealing with a hostage situation in a chemical plant. Commissioner Gordon doesn't want to send his men to avoid the criminals from hurting the hostages. However, unknown to the criminals, the Bat signal has been activated, and Gordon knows everything will soon be over. Inside the plant, the criminals get anxious and they try to hurt the hostages, but the Dark Knight has arrived to take them all out, one by one. When the last criminal goes down by his own mistakes, Batman hears a helicopter approaching the plant. Using the criminals' radios, Batman learns that the helicopter is there to take the crooks away with the chemicals that they were supposed to steal. Batman climbs to the top of one of the chimneys and jumps towards the helicopter. The criminals panic, but there is nothing they can do to stop Batman, who beats them inside a helicopter, causing the vehicle to fall to the river and blow to pieces. Batman is the only survivor of the accident, but he has been seriously injured. Making a big effort, Batman joins Commissioner Gordon inside the plant, where the police have arrested the criminals and the hostages are given medical attention. Batman requests that a pregnant woman among the hostages gets priority medical care, ensuring her safety and that of her baby. With the situation under control, Batman decides to leave everything in Gordon's hands, but unknown to them, a mysterious woman witnesses everything from the shadows. Batman swings across the rooftops of Gotham, but the effort causes his wound in the ribs to get worse. Batman descends to take a walk, but it's already too late, for when he reaches the ground, he passes out in the dark alley. And just a few seconds later, the mysterious woman finds Batman. In his dreams, Batman is haunted by the memory of the death of his parents, and when he awakes from the nightmare, he finds himself in the Batcave. At first, he believes Alfred found him and took him there, but much to his surprise, it was all thanks to Talia. She explains that she was at the chemical plant because she has an interest in the leader of the criminals that attacked the place, and that she followed Bruce until he collapsed. After learning that the criminals have a leader, Bruce quickly puts on his Batsuit again and goes to meet Commissioner Gordon. However, Talia decides to go with him because he might need help after his injury. At the GCPD, Commissioner Gordon tells them that the criminals are working for the international terrorist known as Kane, and that the chemicals that they were trying to steal are used in science that manipulates the weather. In order to learn more about these chemicals, Batman visits Dr. Blaine, an old friend who helped Batman in the past against a formidable enemy. Unfortunately, Batman finds Dr. Blaine murdered in his office, holding a piece of paper with the name of a distant star in a constellation far away. The name is Al Ghul, the Demon Star. Batman is sure that Ra's al Ghul is somehow involved in the crime, and together with Talia, they travel to the distant base of operations of the demon inside the snowy mountains. When they arrive, they find that Rage is restoring one of the Lazarus pits. Rage is not surprised by their presence, and soon he provides them food and hospitality. Batman, however, asks about the murder of Dr. Blaine, but Rage has nothing to do with it. Batman then asks Rage about the terrorist known as Kane, and at the mention of the name, Rage gets unusually mad. Batman understands that there is a connection between them, and Rage explains that Kane is the murderer of his wife. Rage tells Batman that many years in the past, he used his organization to fight the enemies during World War II. One of his soldiers died during a mission in Hiroshima, and Rage took the responsibility to raise the man's only son as his own. The teenager was called Quinlan, and after the death of his parents, he became cold and hard. He changed his name to Kane and started acting strange. Rage's wife, Melisande, was pregnant with Talia and asked Rage to expel him from their home, but Rage just couldn't do it. After all, he was responsible for the death of his parents. A few years later, Melisande caught Kane prowling inside Rage's secret room, where he kept a Lazarus pit. The room was forbidden for everyone, and Kane panicked when Melisande found him. He fled, scared of the consequences, but he pushed Melisande into the pit, killing her. The young Talia watched everything, and ever since she hasn't stopped hunting the killer of her mother. Having told Batman about Kane, Rage asks Batman to become an ally in order to defeat and stop Kane once and for all. Batman accepts, but Rage tells him that their alliance can only be official if he agrees to marry Talia. This time there is no doubt in Batman's mind, and he accepts the offer. However, Talia is not entirely convinced of Batman's honesty, but the Dark Knight opens up and reveals that Talia is indeed the only woman he has ever loved and that he ever will. Talia finally understands and they retire to their private chambers. Batman is concerned that they need to make their wedding something official, but Talia reminds him that Rage already did a ceremony for them in the past. Bruce is still unsure, but the feelings disappear once Talia shows him unconditional love, and the two of them spend the night together, a night full of passion and intimacy. Like this, Batman becomes part of the Demon's family as Ra's al Ghul's heir and his new son. In his position as the son of the demon, Batman is allowed to train and command Rage's army, teaching them non-lethal combat and many other techniques. In the meantime, Kane is planning to take over the world, but his doctor has bad news for him. He has a disease and has only a few weeks left. Back at Rage's headquarters, he and Batman have a conversation during a chess match. Batman would like to remain allies with Rage even after Kane has been stopped, but he also knows that Ra's al Ghul's mission will turn them into enemies soon. Rage understands, but all he can promise is that for now, they are allies. A few days later, Batman and Talia lead a team of Rage's men into a rocket launching site, as they have deduced that Kane will try to use a rocket to reach a satellite, property of the US, that can control the weather at command. Unfortunately, their efforts to sabotage the rocket are for nothing, because Kane and his men outnumber them and they are forced to retreat as the rocket is successfully launched. Batman, Talia, and most of their team return to Rage's headquarters, but one of them was captured by Kane's men. The man is then tortured until he reveals to Kane the location of Rage's hideout. Meanwhile, when Talia and Batman arrive to the headquarters, they are given some big news by Rage's doctor. Talia breaks the news to Batman and informs him that she is pregnant with their child. Batman cannot contain his joy and he shares the happiness with Rage and Talia. As soon as he learns about the baby, Batman starts thinking about naming the boy Thomas, or Martha if it's a girl. After the news, it's evident that the Bat and the Demon are most likely to become permanent allies. The next few days are filled with joy for Batman and Talia, and the Dark Knight gifts her a fancy necklace as a token of his love. Unfortunately, their joy soon turns sour when a large army commanded by Kane attacks Rage's headquarters. Batman and Talia are the most exposed to the attack, and even though their combined forces are good against Kane's army, Batman chooses to stop fighting in order to protect Talia and take her away from the danger. This little distraction allows Kane's men to break further into Rage's hideout, and soon their leader joins them. Batman informs Rage of the situation, but he also lets him know that he is not going to help him fight Kane anymore, and that he will be leaving the place along with Talia to make sure they are safe. Kane finally makes it to the Lazarus pit, and without Batman's help, Rage destroys the entire place to prevent Kane from ever using the pit. The explosion damaged Kane's army and allowed Rage's men to overcome and push the enemy out of the hideout. Almost defeated, Kane decides to set his plan in motion and he gets control of the satellite that can control the weather. He intends to use the satellite to start a new world war and decimate Earth's powerful nations so that he can take over. Rage soon learns about Kane's plan and he requests Batman's help to defeat their enemy. However, Batman refuses, as his only concern is to remain safe and to keep Talia and their baby out of danger. At that precise moment, Talia falls suddenly ill and is taken to the emergency room. After a few minutes, Batman is allowed to see her, but the news are not good. Talia has lost the baby, and Batman assumes it happened because of the strain caused by Kane's attack. Rage and his men are about to leave the base in order to stop Kane, but in the last minute, Batman joins them, after changing his mind now that he's got nothing to lose. Batman, Rage and their army find Kane's hideout and they descend in large numbers. Batman takes down some of the guards and allows Rage to take their firearms to fight against the rest of Kane's men. Knowing that the enemy's approach, Kane activates the satellite and sets it to hit Moscow with heavy storms and hurricanes. Batman and Rage fight through Kane's army until they reach the main room in the place. Batman wants revenge against Kane, but the terrorist is only concerned about getting his revenge against Rage. Batman, however, forces Kane to fight him while Rage attempts to stop the satellite from reaching Russia and start a world war. Batman viciously defeats Kane and Rage manages to stop the satellite by tearing apart the power cables of the machine that controls it. With his last energy, Kane attempts to electrocute Rage with the power cables, but Batman stops him and the cables electrocute Kane, killing him immediately. In the aftermath, Bruce visits Talia, but she insists that she needs to be alone and not see him again. Bruce understands and with sorrow he leaves the place, while Talia is devastated by her own choices. And so the demon no longer has a son. Back in Gotham City, Batman solves the murder of Dr. Blaine after he realizes that Algol is also an acronym for algorithmic language. This clue pointed to the real killer who provided information to Kane's organization. With no more unsolved crimes, Batman ponders the events that could have changed his life permanently. 9 months later, a young couple adopt a perfect baby, a baby that was left in the orphanage along with a fancy necklace. Batman, Son of the Demon is the second Batman graphic novel in history, and it's without a doubt one of the most underrated Batman stories. Everything about it is brilliant, from start to finish, and yet it doesn't get as much love as other Batman stories. Granted, there are hundreds of stories to choose from, but still, this one is among my top 10 Batman stories. The reason why the story turns out to be so good is mostly because of the writing. Mike Barr succeeded in creating a complex and interesting tale, while also remaining true to the nature of every character, and even developed them without changing them drastically. For instance, Batman is the obsessive vigilante, always dark and brooding, but he is also passionate and he even admits his love for Talia, which is something that has not happened before, and in this story happens so naturally that it doesn't feel like a gimmick for shock value. After years of solitude and misery, Batman shows his feelings and desire to join Talia, the only woman he has truly loved. The reason why this feels natural is because Talia is the only woman so far to accept both Bruce Wayne and Batman, and so it's logical that Bruce would choose her to become his partner. Not only that, but also his sexual encounter with Talia is well done. Without being too explicit, we understand that this happened between two persons who are full of passion for each other, and most importantly, this doesn't go against the regular characterization or changes the characters drastically. They have just evolved. Later, when Batman learns he is going to be a father, he feels joy probably for the first time since the death of his parents. However, I can't help but wonder if it was real happiness or just a passing moment of content. I firmly believe that Batman cannot feel real happiness while still being Batman. The Dark Knight is a creature of obsession, vengeance and guilt, and for him to be happy would mean for him to stop being the Batman and become Bruce Wayne 100% of the time. This idea was explored in the Bronze Age, where the Golden Age Batman married Selina Kyle and both of them quit their alter egos to start a family. And that's probably the only way it can happen, ever. In Son of the Demon, Bruce's first reaction to the news that he's going to be a father is that of pure joy, and he is willing to abandon the search of an international terrorist just to protect his family. This indicates that maybe Bruce was actually happy with the idea of starting a family and that his son with Talia would mean the end of his career as Batman. Of course, and conveniently, this didn't happen, but it's interesting to think about. In general, Batman was perfectly written, but because this is Mike Barr, you know, the man who liked Batman always more violent than needed, there is the obligatory moment when Batman allows Rage and his men to murder several people in the final battle. This is kind of contradictory to everything that Batman represents, but considering he was acting in revenge for the loss of his son, it's quite understandable, if not justified. Talia was also nicely written. Mike Barr presents a Talia that is affective, loving, and mysterious altogether. She is also shown to be stronger than before, and her love and loyalty for her father will always be greater than her feelings for Bruce. This is why she chose to lie to Bruce and make him believe that she had lost the baby, so that he can help Rage in fighting and defeating Kane, even though in the end she also suffered a great deal from this decision. Another great development was that of Rage Al Ghul. Rage is not the antagonist of the story, and instead he makes an alliance with Batman. Of course, this is not the first time that it happened, because the Bat and the Demon actually worked together a few times in the Bronze Age. All those events are included in the Bronze Bat series, so be sure to check it out. In Son of the Demon, Rage is determined and smart as usual, but perhaps the greatest development for him was the reveal of some of his past and how his wife and mother of Talia, Melisande, was killed. This is the first time in history that such backstory is revealed, and we finally understand the man behind the demon just a little bit better. Rage's backstory was also important to understand the villain of the story. Although Kane was an interesting character, he was not that exciting or appealing, and that's probably why he was just killed in the end. Once again, the story is generally well written, and it's the proper way to develop a love relationship with Batman. I personally love it, because Talia is one of my favorite women to become Batman's partner and lover. But while the story was really good, it wouldn't have been without the magnificent art by Jerry Bingham. Jerry delivered an athletic and scary version of Batman, similar to the Neil Adams version of the 70s, which is a true classic. Jerry's version of Talia is also perhaps the most beautiful version of the character ever. In this book, Talia looks gorgeous and also deadly, and her outfits are just fantastic. Ra's al Ghul looks a bit older than before, but he's just as scary, if not even more, thanks to Jerry's art. The story is filled with interesting panels, the page layout, the transitions and the angles are all so good that you never feel bored while reading the book. It's a real masterpiece. Of course, there are a couple of things that could have been better, but the most important one is perhaps Mike Barr's use of stories from the previous continuity. This was the first time that Rage and Talia appeared in the Batman comics since The Crisis. It was supposed to be a new story altogether, but the fact is that Son of the Demon has a lot of references to old stories. For instance, Dr. Blaine is the same scientist who joined Batman in his fight against Rage in the early Bronze Age. Then there is the wedding in which Rage officially married Talia and Batman. This happened in an obscure comic from the late 70s called DC Special Series number 15, which I didn't mention in the Bronze Bat series because it was not that relevant to the whole history of Batman. Anyway, the point is that Mike Barr liked to use elements from the pre-Crisis continuity, which only created confusion as to what remained canon and what didn't. But that's it. That's the only bad thing that can be said about Son of the Demon. The story is actually that good and influential that it inspired Grant Morrison to develop the concept of Damian Wayne, the biological son of Bruce and Talia. Of course, Morrison changed many things from the original story, but the basic idea remains the same, which is insane considering that Damian is currently one of the most prominent Robins in history. The most important thing that any story can do is create a legacy, and Son of the Demon succeeds in that and more. It's such a great and cool story that every Batman fan should read. In future episodes, we will check out more Batman stories in the regular comics, featuring Jason Todd, Nightwing, and new enemies. But before doing that, we'll take a look at a couple of old enemies in the next video dedicated to Clayface 3 and the Penguin. If that sounds interesting, then subscribe now, and don't forget to leave a like. Until then, Godspeed, my friends.